I'm nearly adult male. I'm the oldest kid in my family. My parents have two bio kids, me and my twin sister, and they adopted my four other siblings. I had dozens of foster siblings over the years as well. My parents have struggled to make time and have money for all of us. It has meant a lot of sacrifices, mostly on my part. My parents were able to make sure all my younger siblings had at least one activity outside of school to do, but they never did that for me. I was forced to play football when I was 5, but by the time I was 7, my parents had started fostering, and I was no longer doing that. My siblings all get to do something they like. Cora does dance, for example. Some of my other siblings are in music classes. The younger kids were also prioritized with school field trips, so they always got to go, while I haven't since I was 6. The last time I asked was when I was about 9, and my parents told me to work for the money to pay. My grandparents found out what they said and gave me the money, and my parents took it from me to use for the household. My grandparents were so mad at them for that. They delayed my tonsil surgery by 2 years because they prioritized 2 foster kids and 2 of my siblings' surgeries over mine. My grandparents saw how much I was getting the short end of everything with my parents, and they set up a college fund for me. It's a lot of money and caught me off guard. My parents knew about it but can't access it. They only know because of a fight with my grandparents over the lack of saving for my future when they had saved something for my siblings. My parents said the money my grandparents saved should be divided equally because $350,000 is a lot to save for one grandchild when you have multiple. The money's still there, and I have plans for it, but my youngest sister is a kindergartner, and she needs a pretty major stomach surgery. She's had a lot of trouble since her birth, and my parents have paid a lot of money for her medical expenses. They were told this surgery could turn her life around and give her a chance at living with less pain and stomach complications. It could give her a more normal childhood because she can't do much. They don't have the money for the surgery, and they want me to give them the money to pay for it and the expenses afterward. They said they need $270,000 for the whole thing, and maybe they can give some of it back, but they might need even more if stuff gets more complicated. I told them they couldn't have that money, and they lost it and told me I was being selfish. I argued back that they take from me all the time. I asked why they didn't take the money they saved for all my siblings and use that. Why does it have to be mine? They said I was putting college before my sister's future and accused me of being unwilling because she's my sister through adoption and not my bio sister. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Many charitable organizations provide free medical care to children. Your parents should be well aware of these. They should also have medical insurance or CHIP. I think their story smells fishy. Paying $270K for surgery seems suspicious. Please move in with your grandparents. Do not give away any of your college money to your parents. It's meant for you. It was saved for you. It was put away for your future. Yeah, this sounds like a scam. Even in the USA, without insurance, elective surgery with a few days in the hospital might cost $30K to $50K. OP, it's extremely likely your siblings are covered through the state. Most states have Medicaid-type programs that'll cover children if their parents don't make enough. If your parents don't have insurance, then they're morons with that many kids. Your parents are trying to rob you of your future. You are going to need that money very soon and won't have an opportunity to get it back. Also, consider, is that money actually yours? Do you have access to it now at your age? And can you use it for something other than education? I doubt that's really the case, especially since your parents took money your grandparents gave you before. I expect your grandparents have protected it somehow. You could tell your parents if they want money, they need to talk to your grandparents about it, or tell your grandparents yourself that your parents are pressuring you to give them the money. My legal name is Flora, not Florence. My parents just chose to use Flora when I was born, and I've always liked my name a lot. But I've been Flory to most people for most of my life. Even at work, my coworkers call me Flory. I will answer to Flora or Flory. Some people prefer to call me Flora, which I'm totally fine with. But ever since I first met my in-laws 2 years ago, they've been so weird about my name. They started asking me 100 times if my name was Florence. Then they asked me why my parents gave me a nickname, Flora, as a legal name instead of the full name of Florence, and called me Flora instead. But what really bothers them is the fact that I use Flory and somewhat prefer it over Flora. They told me they couldn't understand a professional woman using such a juvenile-sounding name. They said every time they hear the name, they expect a 6-year-old and not a 28-year-old woman. My husband's been wonderful about shutting them down, telling them to stop, and calling them out on being disrespectful. We've distanced ourselves from his parents due to this. But now whenever we see them at family functions, they call me Florence. The first time I really hoped they were talking to someone else. But no, it was me. My husband told me to ignore them if I wanted to, and so I did. My husband's siblings all think their parents are ridiculous, and all of them call me Flory to make their parents angry. Some of them used to call me Flora and Flory, but even Flora doesn't exist to them now. LOL. We were all together for a New Year's Eve party, and my husband's parents brought some friends. They and their friends called me childish, among other things, for refusing to answer to Florence. My husband got so annoyed that he went over to tell them that they were ridiculous when Florence wasn't even my name. They told him Florence could be seen as just another nickname and that I was being unreasonable and rude. I felt very called out, and honestly, the anger and the way they talked about me made me question if I was being a tad unreasonable and if I shouldn't just let them call me Florence. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. By the way, do these people have any nicknames that they find annoying if they were addressed with? It seems like they won't change even if you kill them, so it's better just to give them a dose of their own medicine. Pick a nickname for each of them and tell them it sounds really cute, and this is what you'll call them from now on. Ha, that's perfect. I'm sorry, Trudy. I thought you'd want me to use your full name instead of a childish nickname. But my name is Gertrude. That's obviously a childish nickname for Trudence, not suitable for an adult woman. I would just call her Butthead and say, "What? It's just a nickname. Lighten up." It's not your name, and your obsession with it is absurd. I would just not see them at all, ever again. If they can't even give you the slightest level of respect by using your actual name, then they're worthless people. So to start this off, this issue is with me, 22 female, my sister, 29, and her husband, 30. To add some backstory, basically, ever since puberty, my breasts have been large. I have a petite frame otherwise, and I'm 5 feet 2, so I've thought my body looked weird for almost my whole life. I've always covered up as best as possible with oversized hoodies, t-shirts, and so on. I've always dressed this way as I genuinely was ashamed and hated my body. I started working at 16, knowing my main goal was to afford a breast reduction. Last year, I was finally able to afford it and got it done. There's still a bit on the bigger side, but I've never ever felt so comfortable and happy in my own body as I do now, not to mention the weight that was literally lifted off my shoulders. So this last weekend, my sister and her husband visited our family, and we had planned a dinner at a restaurant. It was nothing extravagant, but it was still a pretty nice place. I just wore jeans and a tight-fitting shirt. I thought everything went well. We all chatted and talked like usual, but a bit in, I noticed brother-in-law was staring at me a lot. I got uncomfortable, and I think my sister also noticed, and she was silent for almost the whole night after that. I thought she was mad at brother-in-law and that she could see that I was uncomfortable with his stares. But the same night she texted me, telling me that I didn't need to dress so inappropriately in front of a married man, that I needed to have some self-respect, and she didn't think I was the type to try and seduce a married man. I texted her, explaining that wasn't my intention, and told her that I actually felt uncomfortable with his stares. She texted me back, just saying that if I didn't want him to stare, then I shouldn't have dressed that way. I was extremely upset by all of this and talked with my mother, but my mother agreed with my sister. I'm starting to feel like I should have thought about covering up and doing more, especially since my mother also thinks I was an idiot for this. I'm in no way a Christian, but Jesus responded to this question the best. When his male followers complained about the pesky, provocative female body that forced their eyes to stray, Jesus told those men to pluck out their eyes if it was so troublesome. He told them to remove their hands if they were tempted to get grabby, because it's not the woman to blame for her allure, but the man who refuses to be accountable for his actions. So on very good authority, you're not the idiot. Oh my God, I love this. Struggle with that, Jack. OP, there's absolutely nothing wrong with wearing a fitting shirt. There would, in fact, be absolutely nothing wrong with you wearing a skin-tight, bright red, low-cut, holy wow dress either. You should always wear what makes you feel good and look nice, and is appropriate for the occasion. Nothing you described even comes close to scandalous. Yeah, what a load of bull. Does the sister go around to every woman in public, demanding they cover up because her husband can't control his eyes? What about every other man in the world, unmarried or not? Are you supposed to hide your body to make sure they don't stare at you? What if you do cover up, and then your face is too attractive, and they start staring at you? Do you see how ridiculous this is? Men staring at you while you're wearing regular clothes isn't your problem to solve. It's disgusting that your mom and sister are body shaming you. This is your brother-in-law's problem for staring at you, not yours. It's not your fault he can't or won't stop staring and ogling you. I, 30 female, started college last year. During my second semester, I met Phoebe, 19. We were taking 2 classes together, and we clicked immediately. We have a lot of the same interests, and she's just such a kind and smart girl. Phoebe was diagnosed with cancer over the summer. She spent a few months in the hospital and now goes for outpatient chemo every couple of weeks. On Thursday, Phoebe called me and said her grandpa was supposed to drive her to chemo, but he never showed up, and asked if I could take her. After her chemo, she fell asleep in the car. I decided to bring her to my apartment and let her rest, because she's one of 6 kids at home, and her house is loud and not a good place for recovering from chemo. When we got to my apartment, I woke her up, brought her to the couch, and brought her some blankets. She was very appreciative of me letting her stay at my apartment. The thing is, my mom is staying with us, and she was supposed to be sleeping on the couch. It totally slipped my mind when I brought Phoebe home. My mom got back and asked why Phoebe was there when she saw her sleeping on the couch. I explained the situation, and she said it was rude of me to give up the couch without asking her. I called my husband and explained the situation, and he picked up an air mattress and extra blankets for my mom, but she's still mad that I gave away the couch for the night. I took Phoebe home Friday afternoon. My husband says he gets why I did it, but he also gets why she's upset. Am I the idiot for giving my friend the couch when my mom was staying with us? Edit. Phoebe's family couldn't care less that she's sick. They don't visit her in the hospital. They don't take her to appointments unless they're not working. They don't have plans, and they feel like going. And they don't make her siblings let her rest. She asked her mom if she was taking her to get a procedure done, and her mom told her they couldn't put their lives on hold just because she was sick again. She shares a room with her young teen sister, and her sister constantly has friends over, and they hang out in her room. Phoebe's come over to nap on the couch before because she can't rest at home. So you promised the couch to your mom, and then gave it to someone else, and didn't tell her, and then made her sleep on an air mattress instead. It depends on the couch, but 90% of the time a couch is more comfortable. And the friend already has a bed and a place to stay, but you decided she would be more comfortable at your place, a decision you made for her while she was asleep. Of course you are the idiot. A well-meaning one, but your mom obviously has reason to be annoyed. It's gotta hurt mom's pride, besides her back. My kid is a baby, but I can't imagine 30 years down the road, he's married and we have a good relationship, and he invites me over and then just forgets I exist. I would take it in stride and just jokingly say, "Dibs on your side of the bed. Hope your husband doesn't mind cuddles." But even if I still have the back of a 20-year-old, then it would still probably hurt my feelings a bit. I'm the same age as OP, and my back already sucks. It's a little weird that OP doesn't comprehend at all why your mom is unhappy. People seriously put too much importance on, "You forgot about your mom." People get distracted by immediate concerns. This minor lapse says nothing about things overall. This is all mountain out of molehill stuff. My mom would have seen this girl with cancer recovering from a chemo treatment and would have started taking care of her instead of being mad that I brought her home and let her sleep on the couch. I can't imagine being upset by that. OP's mom is a big idiot. My sister had boy-girl twins a few months ago. The babies were long wanted. She had names picked out years before. She's always loved old-fashioned vintage names and has been outspoken about her joy that they're back. She's always been judgmental of my choice of names for my 3 children because they were more uncommon and not classics. But she thought everyone would love her kids' names, Barbara and Douglas. I think she did get some positive comments, but she's been annoyed because some people will say that they're sweet old lady, old man names, and that bothers her. While some have told her they don't like them because they're old lady, old man names. My sister snapped at her best friend and people in her mommy group over the comments that I know of. Her best friend didn't offer that up immediately either. My sister was bothered by her lack of comment on the names and begged her to give her an honest opinion. It sounds like the names are loved at the mommy group though, but my sister takes offense at how they're complimented. She mentioned this to me 3 different times. The first time I said nothing and let her talk. The second time I asked her why it bothered her when she said she wanted more old-fashioned names to come back, and the older the better. Her answer was those are the best kinds of names, and just because people like me don't appreciate them doesn't mean that they're just for old ladies and old men. The third time was when I called her a hypocrite, and this was after she described a couple of new members of the mommy group cooing over the names and then saying the dreaded old lady, old man thing, and she lost her temper with them over their description of the names. I told her she's a bit of a hypocrite to hate even the positive comments about the names that mention their names you would expect to find attached to older ladies and older men, when she intentionally wanted her kids to have old-fashioned names. She told me it's very different, and I'm just showing how much I hate her children's names. I've never said this to her, and unlike her, I would never disparage names someone else chooses, especially someone close to me. But she insisted that calling her a hypocrite is wrong, when it's different to like old names versus calling them old people names. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Sure, your interpretation of it isn't perfect, but she's being an idiot by giving this issue so much energy and bringing it up over and over again. It sounds like she doesn't like her own kids' names and keeps projecting that on you, her friends, and people in mom groups. Tell her you don't want to talk about everyone's names anymore and to get over it. Exactly. It sounds like your sister's having buyer's remorse about the names and can't admit that she hates them now that they're actually attached to her kids. Give me a Walt, Hazel, Henry, Harold, Esther, or Ruth any day over names with 3 X's, 4 N's, and EIGH, where one should not be, random apostrophes that make 0 sense, and words spelled backwards for no darn reason. Also, Barbara and Douglas are hardly old or classic names. Next, I'll hear that old movies are things like Finding Nemo.